Officially good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today's Facilities and Planning Committee meeting. Uh, Start off as usual, and hopefully you've all had an opportunity to review the minutes from April 9th. Could I have a motion to approve these minutes?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the minutes pass. The next item is that we will now turn the meeting over to Mr. Bizek and Ms. Detloff for the discuss the campus transformation facilities management updates.
Thank you, Dr. Walker. I think we'll start with a report from RSM, who does our reviews, and I believe Stephanie Tantillo is on the line to be able to do that. Stephanie?
I am. Hello. Thank you for putting me up first. I actually wasn't prepared for sharing the screen, so give me just half a beat.
Okay.
I have your slides and I can share them. If you have updates, let me know. I can stop sharing and let you share.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see, making sure my Zoom window is up. Perfect. This works. So this report we've prepared for today, if we could advance to the next slide.
Advance to the next slide, Brian.
So I'll introduce the content of the next slide as we go through. So since our last meeting, we have completed our review of the BHP project and the other project that sorry, the outpatient facilities projects, so the off-campus projects. And so for this period, our focus has been on the ongoing Apex campus project and the closeout of the Glick Tower. So focusing first on Apex, just to date, we've reviewed $168 million of project costs, mostly focused on construction costs, but also consultants that are related to the construction process. And we have about $1 million of recoveries identified in our reviews. To date, we've completed our interim review that was through the end of 2024, and we are kicking off our interim review for costs in 2025. For the Glick Tower, as I said, the closeout is complete. Hooray. I know patients have been in the building for a long time, so it was great to have the contractor finally closed out. And through the duration of that project, we had identified 980,000 of recovered costs. And in the closeout, we verified that the contractor did not exceed their billings based on their project costs. So everything was by the book. So if we could advance to the next slide, and we can just go in a little deeper detail on our procedures and what we do. So we have kind of two buckets of activities that we perform. Monthly monitoring is just the deep dive review of the invoices themselves. For the Apex project, especially where there are multiple pay applications per month or consultant invoices per month, we are analyzing, reviewing every dollar that's in there. And the volume of our, I guess, recoverables or items identified in our interims have significantly decreased because our monthly monitoring procedures are so robust. And so again, that's recalculating everything. Math is hard. There's always an error. So we're able to communicate with the contractor before that pay application is finalized. So when the final pay app is released for payment, it's actually correct and properly supported. And for our interim and closeout reviews, this is a deep dive into the collective project costs. Monthly monitoring is just that snapshot of the costs for that individual month. But during interim and closeout reviews, we're looking at the collective costs to that point and doing deeper analysis into the contractor's accounting records, change orders, other reconciliations that verify the contractor is in fact billing per their contract. And through this process, we've also identified some recoverable findings as well. But like I said, the monthly monitoring process being so robust that the interims and closeouts have become more simplified, I guess a little easier to review in the sense that there isn't much extra to identify. So, which is great. That's how the process is supposed to work. So next slide for just a more in-depth look at the Apex project. So as you know, the project contract value is 168 million, and in our last catch up with the project management team, we're aiming for the second quarter potentially of opening the project or closing out the project rather. So to date, again, we've had, I believe, oh, I do apologize. This might be a little, this particular slide outdated from the cover sheet, but from the cover sheet, we have reviewed the 65 million dollars in construction costs. So on the next slide, just a more detailed review of our monitoring results. So again, a little over $1 million recovered, and this is actually identified in our monthly review process of inappropriate subcontractor billing, and those costs were billed inappropriately, but then returned or credited back to Metro Health on the following pay application. So that was quickly resolved. Again, our next steps here are to continue our monthly monitoring through the conclusion of the project. We are kicking off our interim cost review through costs of 2025, and then next year we'll be doing the closeout review as the project comes to a conclusion. Then moving forward is, on the next slide, please, just a snapshot of the Glick Tower. So this project, I feel like this was my own baby because I've been working on it for 6 years. And so, the project went great from, I guess, a contractor auditor relationship perspective, and also their ability to provide the transparency when requested. As we went through the project, again, as is desired, the best case scenario, the billing documents, etc., became more and more consistent, transparent, and any issues identified were easily resolved with the contractor or involving the project management team. So at the very end of the project, again, there was 980,000 about recovered from our reviews, and in our closeout, we identified that the contractor's billings were all in compliance with their contract. So for this project, no further updates, and on our next review with you, this one will fall off and we'll just be focusing on the Apex reporting moving forward. So I'll pause there. I think that's the conclusion we have. That was a very quick run through, but I'll open up if there were any questions for me directly that I can answer.
I have a question. Mike Summers here. Stephanie, what do we make of the fact that you recovered a little less than $1 million on a $500 million project, and then $1 million on a $168 million project?
That's fair. We had discussed that internally as well. There, for the transformation, we call it the transformation project internally, but for the Glick Tower, there were multiple facets of, or components rather, to the project. There was garage demolition, and lots of other portions that were completed well before the Glick Tower itself was completed. So in reviewing and closing out those particular portions, there were some potential recoveries identified. The project administration at the time identified or responded rather that they were okay with how the costs had been billed and were not going to pursue recovery. So there were some areas that that were potential recoveries, but were deemed by the management team not pursue. So I think I didn't include those amounts here just because they were ultimately not recovered, but it was upwards of, I think, about 300,000 additional. As far as recoverable amounts versus, duration or size of project, it really does depend on how the project is administered. Successful projects, and I would qualify this as a successful project, there's not such a high volume of recoverables because the controls are properly in place. The management controls are in place, audit controls, and the other team members who are involved in the project, making sure that the financial health is appropriate. We've had projects that we've assisted that were not managed very well, and the recoverable amount was significantly more just because of that misalignment in management and controls. Another aspect of success, oh, sorry, getting a little feedback. Another aspect of success here is that we have been involved on monthly reviews. And so the recoverable amounts identified are rather small on a monthly basis. I mean, $1 million in 1 month was a bit of an anomaly, but we're able to address issues before the money is paid out to the contractor in order to receive that money, get that credit back. So in that sense, the process is also successful where we're not, we as Metro Health are not at risk of overpaying the contractor when those issues are identified before payment is released.
I have a question, and this may
Sure.
be more for Jim. I don't know. Are we finished? Because I know late in the stages, like we made some changes, if I remember correctly. Are we through with all that? Is this it? We've done? 'Cause I know we moved some things around.
Yeah, I guess that's really for me, Dr. Walker. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the cost that we have established for the project we're building that accounts for all of the adjustments we've made in the outpatient health center this last couple of years. So we're totally working within that total authorized amount. And at this point, we feel comfortable we're staying within that amount. So, at this point, as Stephanie pointed out, the focus is on making sure we go through each of the billings and they're accurate for the time that they're submitted as we go.
Right.
But yes, everything's accounted for.
Thank you. Someone else have a question?
Hey, Jim, it's Ron. So, what was before change orders, what was the cost per square foot? And then what was the actual approved cost per square foot with the change orders? And did it end up hitting the same, did it hit that benchmark at the end when you do the final payout of all expenses for the project? Just a rough idea. I don't need the exact numbers. So
the cost per square foot at the end of this is somewhere like $540 a square foot, that sort of thing. Again, this was a higher quality building in the end than the MOB, and we did do some cost comparison to some recent projects as best we could find that were similar. And it was within the range. Honestly, it's a little toward the high end of the range because we were doing this on the fly, but it fit within what we would expect given the circumstances. I don't remember exactly what it was originally, but it's probably more in the 400s.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Well, if that concludes our section, if there are any questions from the board following, this presentation, just let Jim or Eileen know. They'll pass the information to us and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, we'll move into the campus transformation update. So if we could cue those slides, please. Great, thank you. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. Great, thanks. We'll go right to the Glick Center closeout. I showed much of this information on the, I think at the last one, we were at the final GMP closeout. We had identified, here's the number that gets returned to Metro Health as a result of closing out that contract. So all of the final change orders executed. We have final payment requests that had come in, a small arithmetic area that needed to be resubmitted, but it is ready for payment. So my hope is here that the next time I report, this is very brief, the payment's done, the closeout is finished. There's really nothing left to do with this project other than make sure we have the corrected pay application and then pay it. Let's go on to the next slide, please. Okay, now we move into the new outpatient health center. So I'm going to give you just a construction update. Work has been flowing very well on site. I think we're still averaging around the workforce of about 150 on site daily. Fair bit of work finishing up on the exterior around the loading dock. Concrete dock ramp has gone in. Doing some exterior signage. In fact, if you drove in from the south today, you would see the logo icon is now on the south side of the building on the upper west corner of the building. The entry canopy trim is about done. So an awful lot of the exterior is completed, even as we move to the back side of the building. Inside the building, floor work is continuing pretty rapidly, floor by floor, finishing from the top down. So the 5th floor you can see is quite a ways along. We're moving into flooring, floor tile in the bathrooms, casework, plumbing fixture installation, that sort of activity. On down to the 1st floor and 2nd floor, ground floor, where we're finishing up the framing, drywall, and some of the mechanical, electrical rough in. So it's moved at a really good pace since the last time we talked in April. Let's go to the next slide. We'll kind of run through some photos, I think, of what's going on. Oh, yeah, just a site plan again. The work is really focused on completing some of the loading dock work and then the connector between the outpatient health center and the parking garage. The framing is in place, and the curtain wall that goes in there should be out on the site and starting this month. And that'll enclose that space, so it'll completely enclosed from the garage to the facility itself. Next slide, please. Again, this is finishing up some outside work. Left is that entry canopy. On the right, you can see sort of a bare spot where the panels are to go on the south side of the building. Actually, that's now completed as of today. These photos are about 2 weeks old. So the exterior work is really starting to get buttoned up. Next slide, please. There's loading dock exterior. You can see that the dock ramp and most of the concrete work around that has been done. In the background on the left picture, you see the roof framing for the connector, and on the right-hand side, that's the track for the curtain wall to fit in. That'll be enclosed here shortly. Next slide.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Again, and just a reminder of the composition of the building, which one pieces go where. We have the walkway to the bridge to click on the left. South is to the right, and you'll notice as we go through, the work is much more finished on the 5th floor as we work our way down. Next slide, please. Okay, 5th floor. You can see casework is going in, faucet, sink, that sort of thing is already there. Door frames are in, flooring is going in. Let's go to the next slide. And you're looking at tile flooring is in, the bathroom fixtures are being put in. On the right-hand side, it's a little difficult to tell, but this is that linear vinyl tile that we're using throughout, so that's being installed. Next slide. And then down on the 4th floor, and you can sort of see this in the pictures above, but the ceiling track for the tile systems for the acoustical tile has gone in pretty much throughout. Here, this is getting ready actually for a hard surface ceiling, so this will be framing for a drywall ceiling. But when we do that, that means that everything up above the ceiling that we need to put in is already in. So we're quite a ways along here. Next slide. The 4th floor, you can see the ceiling grid throughout. All the framing, drywall work is done and finished. And primarily a lot of painting is the next part. Again, these photos were taken probably 2 weeks ago, so we put the report together. So this is already even farther along since then. Next slide.
Hey, Jim, it's Ron again. Someone asked me a micro question. So before the ceilings are closed, does the life safety, fire safety team from Metro walk through with the contractor to ensure all penetrations have been sealed properly? So that, and the reason being, then next year on commission, they won't find it. They won't find any in that building.
Yes, that's Ron. It's a good point. We actually have regular walkthroughs with our facility folks. There are a number of things we look for above the ceilings. Obviously, the penetrations is a big one because that's what we get dinged on frequently. But we've also looked as the installation progressed to make sure that if we have fire dampers, that there's nothing in the way of our ability to open those and get into them. That everything that up above there, because it gets pretty packed, is accessible. So yeah, we'll do a final walkthrough before we fill it in.
Okay.
But we've been trying to do this as a regular process during construction to follow along as well.
Jim, I want to follow up on Ron's question. Do we include the fire marshal from the city of Cleveland at any point along the way here?
They will be included in the final walkthrough. Part of it is, and I've run across this before, is sort of their limitations. They kind of like to see things when it's mostly done. And so they expect us to do our own walkthroughs to get it ready for them to review. But they will be looking at this before we are, able to close up. So again,
I assume, Jim,
Yeah.
Jim, that the life safety team are former firemen. So my life safety fire team that I had at UH, were the majority of the fire safety guys were all retired firemen from Cleveland and from Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights. And so, I don't know. I'm assuming the team at Metro's probably got the same composition, Jim.
Yeah, we use some outside help for all of this to make sure that we got it covered. But yeah.
We use Jensen Hughes, which is
Yeah.
a national life safety firm, to come in and survey the building. And they've been in once already, and they'll be coming back again before we button up the ceilings.
Right. In addition, before you button all this stuff up, the code officials have to come in to give you the authorization to close it in. So they want to see it too. So we've got multiple checkpoints. Okay. Other questions? Moving down on the third floor, we have really drywall installation through most of it. You can see a few spaces here at X-ray room where we're doing the final rough-in for MEP systems. That would include some medical gases and as well as all the electrical communication, but moving rapidly to enclose things with drywall. Next slide, please. Down on the second floor, final framing and more in-wall rough-in. So again, up above, you'll see more drywall. This is getting ready for drywall coming next. So you can see much of the rough-in is basically completed. Next slide, please. We get down to one. Again, more of the final rough-in or framing as well as the rough-in going in. Again, finishing in from the top down. You can see a fair bit of work above the ceiling. There's still a little bit more to do there before we get all that ready to enclose. Let's go down to the ground floor.
Hey, Jim, quick question before
Yes.
we go to the ground floor. You mentioned the medical gases. Do they pressure test those lines before they start buttoning everything up?
Yes, I see Karen nodding her head, but they'll pressure test them and then they'll actually got to make sure they're all cleaned out too, so that there's no residue of any kind in there. But yes, Karen, you want to add to that?
They will pressure test them as well as test for the quality of gas after they fill it as well.
Right, right. Okay, other questions? Okay, down on the ground floor, we still have a fair bit of this had been framed earlier, but it's being revised. So now the crews have moved down. So you see that the process is the framers go through, then the drywall hangers will, after the MVP roughing and all that is done to the wall, then the drywall hangers come through and they're followed by the tapers and finishers. So they've been working their way from the top to the bottom. And of course, now we're down here on the bottom. The framers are about done. You can see the door frame there off to the left leaning against. Those will get set into place. And then the roughing will be completed. And then shortly after that, drywall will begin. So let's go to the next slide, please. I think that starts to wrap it up. Yeah. So looking ahead for the next 30 days plus, loading dock exterior, complete that whole loading dock area and the curtain wall. Metal panel installation will go in sort of the barrier walls for that. Exterior signage installation is actually going on now. Interior construction, you can kind of see there that will actually, the door frames are in on the upper floors, but it'll be start to install the doors and the final trim and then working our way down to the casework installation. That same process I showed you on the 5th floor, that'll start on the 4th floor pretty soon. And then finishing up the 3rd floor sky bridge on down below. And then the other thing is all the major pieces of equipment, obviously we've been using for a while, and we'll start to move into final commissioning here this fall. Let's go to the next slide. I think this is just an updated schedule, and the way this is shown in the construction zone here, where it's sort of brown, is that's a top to bottom. With the top bar, you can see actually the second one down from the patch gauge, the first bar, but the top bar shows the entire building in that cluster in the middle there. And then you can see floor by floor level of completion on down. So as we're getting very close to being substantially complete on the upper floors, and the lower floors are chasing that one to be complete, so that we're all done with this by February 2026. Questions about this?
Yep. Hey, Jim.
Sure.
Any delays in terms of bringing any imported material in for the equipment and fixtures, and any noticeable impact from any tariffs at this moment?
Not that we have seen, and it's a topic we discuss at the weekly owner architect contractor meetings. We were fortunate in that we had quite a lot of material already purchased ahead of time and stored. But we have not seen any issues, do not expect any. As we've gone through not only this portion of the project, but also as we've looked at equipment purchases and furniture purchases, we've kept a little money off to the side to give ourselves a cushion if anything comes up. But right now, as I continue to ask, we don't have any projections based on how far we are and how much is purchased. That's not an issue yet, although we've got a reserve in case we need it. We've also not had any issues with labor. We've got a good workforce on site. Sometimes if you have more than one good sized project in town, it's hard to get quality labor. That hasn't been an issue, and really haven't had a labor disturbance that's been an issue for us. The tapers were out for a while, but I think we've pretty much caught up now that they've been back on the site. So right now it looks good. Okay. Other questions? Good. Well, in general, the construction is moving very well. We're very happy with the progress, and I think all the subcontractors out have worked very well together as a team to follow each other through the building and stay on track with what we need. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, this gets us into the activation stage. I'd like to ask Eileen Hayes to lead us through this next group of slides.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, I'm sharing this slide with you so that you guys can understand the structure that we put in place to engage our staff and our providers in the planning and activation of the building. So as you can see, we've had active committees working since March to go through and itemize all the operational activities that will need to happen from now until we open, and then after we open and decommissioning the spaces that we're moving out of. Next slide, please. This is the timeline that we shared with you as well. As of today, we are 250 days from our opening day. We do have a targeted date of April 20th, 2026 for go live day one patients in the building. Again, the phasing that we've gone through is our assessment that we did early on, the transition planning with all those committees that you just saw. We are also in the process of looking at all the workflows that have changed from how the clinics operate today to how they will operate tomorrow. And then the last phase that we will be working on is the actual physical move planning and relocation planning. Next slide, please. To give you an update on procurement, we have come very far. Most of it is complete, as Jim had mentioned. We have not run into any tariff issues in the procurement. We did have a lot of our vendors notify us earlier in the year that if we would purchase things a little bit sooner, we would avoid that. So we've been very fortunate not to have any extended costs added to our budgets here. The equipment is complete. Furniture contracts were completed. We went through a competitive bid process for that, and the POs are being issued this week. We probably have about $3.5 million of furniture that will come in. IS procurement has gone very well. They are finalizing their procurement of desktops, the last minute type things that they will be adding into the building. We are working with our art consultants, Land Studio, and they are in the process. They have a good plan put together, and we're in the process of procuring all the art. We have also been working with our consultants and design team on all the interior signage and wayfinding on the campus. As you know, as we move folks out of the OPP, move folks out of Belgrave, Hammongannon South, we'll need to redirect everybody to the new location once they arrive on campus. Next slide. We've really been focusing now that the building is come far down the path and we procured just about everything. Now we're into all of those committees working on their operations. What are the hours of operations? What additional staffing may we need? How are we going to do things differently? How are we centralizing registration? So a whole lot of work is going on with that. 2 weeks ago, we sat with about 40 or 50 people, and based on the schedule that the contractor Turner has provided us, again, they will turn over the building to us by floor. So again, they've been constructing 5th floor down. So starting next month, after they complete the punch list on the 5th floor, they will turn that over to us so I can begin the building load logistics. So all the equipment, all the furniture, everything that we can get into the building prior to our temporary certificate of occupancy date of February 13th, we're going to get everything in the building. Again, we'll work 5th floor down. So we had Turner at this meeting, we had facilities at this meeting, we had IS at this meeting. So we have developed the draft activation schedule, which identifies every activity that we need to do from now until opening day, and how all of those interrelate to each other. Again, everything from loading up the equipment, the exam tables, the supply bins, to flushing the water systems before we open. Everything is being identified so that our activation team can make sure that those activities get complete prior to opening. Again, some of the workflows that we're working on are the patient arrival and check-in process. We will have a centralized registration concept, which is different than what we have today. So we are working with all of the teams to define that and document the workflow, and then we can train and educate folks on that as well. We're also looking at the path of travel between the buildings. As you know, the building is connected to the Glick Center. So how do we get from the outpatient health center over to the ED, and vice versa? How do we get some of our inpatients from the Glick Center over to radiation oncology and some of the other services that we will be providing to the inpatient population? We are also looking at the new technologies that will be in place for the building. Vocera communication devices, the nurse call system will be there. And again, how will we respond to medical emergencies in the building? How will we respond to an evacuation if we need to do that? So all of that is being developed. We also have a team, multidisciplinary team that includes HR, professional affairs, our nursing education, and our overall education department to develop the training and education that is required prior to us opening. So we need to assure that the life safety information is shared with everybody so they know how to operate in the building. They know where the fire extinguishers are. They know where the fire poles are. They know how to evacuate. And then we will have vendor fairs for any of the new equipment that will be added into the space, as well as we will do similar to what we did in the Glick Center, day in the life experiences. So that will probably be early March, where we actually will simulate a day in these clinics, and we will test all the systems, test to make sure the printing is happening in the right location, test to make sure the applications on our PCs work as they should, and test the flow assumptions and everything that we have done. So a lot to do in the next 250 days, but we've got a great team working on all of this. So we've got great engagement from staff, providers, residents, support staff as we move forward. Next slide, please. Oh,
go ahead,
Mike,
you had a question?
Yeah, just as a general rule, how would you describe the radical change in workflows in two categories? One, patient facing, what will that be different? And then the back office, once once all the information leaves the exam room, for example, how
Mhm,
different will all that be?
mhm.
I
I
don't know if
would,
that makes sense.
yes, it does. It does. So from a patient-facing perspective, as I mentioned, we will have centralized registration. Today, in most of the clinics, you walk into the clinic and then you check in and register within that clinic. So we'll centralize that in the building. We are also deploying the kiosks throughout the building. So if you're using my chart, you can do the pre-registration, pre-check-in. You can do that electronically when you arrive as well. And we're promoting that with everybody so that we don't have, queuing lines at the registration desk for everybody to check in face to face with the person. So, and then, from there, people will be directed to the location of their clinic. What floor it's on, is it on the north side or the south side? So from a patient facing perspective, I think that will be a little bit different. What will also be nice is access from the parking garage. So they will have that direct access into the building, covered access. And again, the public elevators are right there. Very simple wayfinding versus what our patients have to go through today, trying to transfer between the buildings in the OPP. So that'll be a huge enhancement. We will have guest services in the building as well to help direct folks. On the workflow, I would say probably the most dramatic change is we are implementing what's called Epic Clinic Map. So basically, it is an electronic graphic that displays the clinic and will display each of the exam rooms, consult rooms, intake rooms. So electronically, we can see who's in the waiting room, what time did they arrive, what exam rooms are available. Today, a lot of the clinics operate by assigning 2 or 3 exam rooms for every provider. So when we developed the pro forma, when we developed the design of this building, we looked for more efficiency. How can we get more volume out of the building? So instead of these are my 2 rooms, it's the next available exam room within a geographic area. So that will be probably one of the biggest changes for our providers and our staff. We are in the process of finalizing a pilot program of this Epic Clinic Map over at our Parma Internal Medicine Clinic. So once that's up and running, should be done by the end of this month, we can start educating people on that. So I think those are the 2 biggest modifications that we will have.
Terrific. Thanks for the overview.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on the outpatient health center? Quick update on the.
I have two quick ones.
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
So I'm going to go back to what Mike asked about the patient facing. So is there going to be enabled an app function for wayfinding in the building for patients?
We do not have that planned in this building. We do have that in the Glick Center.
So it's currently in the Glick Center, but it's not
Correct.
in the Apex.
Correct. And again, I think a lot of that, the decision on that was driven by the setup of the building. It's very easy to access those public elevators. You get off the elevators, you go right or left. And, we're working on the whole wayfinding program so that patients can easily see which direction they need to go once they're on each of the floors.
My only comments can be, I'm not going to assume in today's society that's buried their face in their phones that any healthcare building is easy to wayfind in. It's just my experience.
Gotcha.
And then the last one I'm going to ask, and it's really going to be about the run, hide, fight concept for active shooter. And I'm just assuming that, I guess I shouldn't assume, I would recommend that before the staff actually fully occupied, that they do some exit, find the safe zones in each of the locations they're going to go to, and so that the Metro Health Police will know where those safe zones are, where people may be securing in place, and that they identify 2 or 3 routes of egress out of the building in the event of an active shooter, and that be pre-planned before occupancy. I hate to say that that's something that needs to be done, but in reality, it's something that should be done as part of that project.
Totally agree with you, Ron. And as part of the emergency management operations plan for that building, part of the activities that each of these clinics need to go through is to identify exactly those types of things. Even, the way the building is designed is shelter in place, if there's a fire or whatever on that. So again, having that training on emergency preparedness, locating where we have evacuation equipment, and then again, locating where is the safe space for an active shooter.
The only comment I make about shelter in place, it's shelter in place and knowing where the next zone is. So you shelter in place, but they need to know where the next zone is of safety in the event the existing zone they're sheltering in. So I'll leave it to you, but I'll just make those comments that needs to be included in that occupancy plan for the facility. So.
Yes. Great.
Eileen, Christy Alexander. I just want to follow up a little bit on what you shared about the mapping and the technology for how rooms are assigned.
Yes.
Because I could easily see if I'm in the office and I'm in room number 1, but the next available room is room number 13 at the other end of the hall, I'm now toggling between room 1 and room 13. So I may start room 1's visit, but while that gets set up a procedure, I'm running down the hall to room 13 to get them started. And then I'm back to room 1. And is the medical assistant following me? Or is it one medical assistant for these 3 rooms and one medical assistant for these 3 rooms and what, right? Like thinking about it sounds theoretically good, but in operationalizing it, the way I'm efficient in moving through my schedule is to be able to be doing 2 and 3 things simultaneously, in having my staff person relatively in my vicinity that we can roll, right? So is that built, like, could you tease out a little bit how that's built into the model and how people have given their feedback around that?
Yes. And so one of the things that we're developing with the Epic Clinic map, it's by pod, Dr. Alexander. So you would not be going from room 1 to room 13. You might go from room 1 to room 6, all on the same corridor. And again, the Epic Clinic map is a graphic that you can see on any PC. So if you're in room 1 and you're finishing up your charting and discharging your patient, you can actually see, oh, my next patient's in room 3. So we definitely, and we are starting all of these conversations. We had some pre-work with many of the providers. Dr. Lewis has been working with us as well. And we're continuing to go through these workflows. One of the other things that we are working with is the role of the MA. Every clinic kind of uses the MAs a little bit differently today. So we are looking at, can we get some more standardization on how we do this? Is the MA assigned to the provider, or is the MA assigned to the area? So that is still in process with the operating folks. Good question, though.
So I'm going to add to that and say, I think you're going to need to pilot this, because you're going to need to pilot it with different groups of doctors, because as many of you know, change and doctors are 2 things that are allergic to each other. So you have to work with them and kind of get them used to in theory, this could be very helpful, but you're going to have to kind of work through this, and you don't want to wait until April 26th and then just try to roll this out. You're going to need to take some time. I'm sure you've already planned to do this, but you need to take some time with different groups of providers and work through the little details, because doctors have rooms set up different ways, and it can be done, but you're going to have to work through it.
Yes, agreed, Dr. Walker. And as I had mentioned, we are bringing online the pilot over at Parma Internal Medicine Clinic. So hopefully that will be up shortly, and then we can start running staff through that pilot, tweaking what works. Again, for a certain amount of those activities, we're doing all those activities today, but manually. I mean, there are some clinics that the patient care coordinator is writing down on a piece of paper, okay, the next patient is in room 3 or room 4. So this kind of just
But it's
automates that
potential. It
process.
has potential to increase efficiency. There's no question
Yes.
to make it better. It's just, there's little bitty details. As Dr. Alexander explained, people get used to doing it. You got to show them how it can
Absolutely.
work better for them this way. And the only way to do that is to do it. We can talk about it, but until you get in there and do it, until you have, then you find out what the issues are. But I think it's a great idea. It's just you got to work through it. I'm just saying, we use the time to work out the bugs now.
Yes, exactly. Totally agree. That's our plan. Okay. All right, ambulatory enabling projects. These are the last handful of projects to finish up from the AEP projects from 2022. Heart and vascular and the pain management clinics at Parma will be finishing up in the next 2 months. So we're very excited about those 2 projects, and we'll activate heart and vascular first in September, and then the pain management clinic in October. Earlier this year, we added the MRI replacement at Parma to this group of projects. We are still in the planning process of the facility redesign around that, and hope to have that activated in first quarter of 26. We also added the physical therapy expansion at Parma, which is underway. We're just finalizing the GMP on that. And then this will be a phased approach to add capacity early on, and then finish up some renovation and refresh of the existing space. So again, we hope to have that fully online by the end of the year. Next slide, please. Emergency department. Last quarter, I shared with you the overview of the project that we have been working on. Again, the initial concept for the emergency department was kind of just more of a refresh to upgrade the aesthetics and the finishes in the space. Working with the ED leadership and the staff, we've worked through more of a renovation project. Again, area 1, which is the ED waiting and registration, how our patients, again, that public patient-facing space, how we'll look at that. Area 3 is the centralized workstation area, which is basically the hub of the emergency department. Area 2 is behavioral health in the emergency department. So that area we're basically relocating from the south end of the department and giving it its own space. So that patient population is kind of isolated, but everything is adjacent to the emergency department because they're still emergency department patients. And then we go back to where the current behavioral health beds are and do some modification to add some more acute care space there. Next slide, please. And this will just show you, we are in finalizing design development drawings. Those should be completed on Friday from our design team. This demonstrates the changes that we will be making or propose to make at the front of the department. Again, reconfiguring the waiting space, reconfiguring the triage rooms so that we have visibility from those triage rooms to anybody that's in the waiting room. So there's always eyes on any patient that's in the waiting room. Again, this area focuses on more of that fast track patient. How do we get these patients in and out for the minor injuries that need to happen there? As you can see in the bottom part of this slide, it's just kind of a 3D rendering of what that will look like. We are expanding into the rotunda area there as you come in to create more space for the emergency department. So you can see coming in there, we will have glass to open that up a little bit, and then have the distinct entry for the emergency department patients. Next slide. Again, this next area will be the behavioral health emergency patients. This area that you see right here is currently occupied by the ED support spaces. This is where we have some offices, the staff break room, a conference room. We will be relocating those across the way into the Belgrave building as an enabling project, so that this renovation can happen all in one phase. Again, enhancing the environment and the services that we are providing for the behavioral health patient that do come into our emergency department. Next slide. Again, this is the hub of the emergency department. This is the centralized work area. This will be very complicated for us to renovate. We've worked with the team and have identified 6 separate phases so that we can keep the area operational as we renovate. Again, this is to provide more work areas for staff and providers, as well as to provide some support in that area. This will then support all the areas of the emergency department and the trauma area. Again, trying to give a little more enclosure for safety purposes, as well as, putting away, if you walk in our ED today, we have lots of stuff everywhere. It's very cluttered looking because it's a very busy department. So intentionally designing the spaces so that we can put some things behind doors and have create a calmer type environment for both staff and patients. Next slide. And then this is the current area where we do have our behavioral health dedicated rooms. We will keep a couple of the rooms here as overflow if we need those, but then we're converting a couple of those behavioral health rooms back to emergent care rooms so that we can add a little more capacity to the building. And then outside of the renovation areas that I've outlined here is, the basic refresh of the patient rooms and the main corridors. The ED is kind of tired. It's been 20 years. So going in and refreshing the flooring, the cabinets in the patient rooms, and just refreshing the colors. They're very dark colors in there now. So to create again a more healing environment for our patients and staff. Next slide.
Ron,
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
So as you do the refresh, and I think it would be more of a question for the clinical team. As you notice, I probably looked very closely at the blueprint. So there seems to be a marked absence of facilities for restrooms. So, in today's environment, and I don't know the average wait time for beds, Chrissy, and whether that's improving, but especially in the psych area, hold times are rather large. But I would just encourage, as you redesign, to make sure there's adequate facilities for the patients to use, especially if they have prolonged stays. So.
Agreed. And we've looked at what the code requirements are for this area.
There's one thing between code requirements and one thing versus human comfort requirements. So
Understand.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Right now, I don't think it passes the general Jiu-Jitsu human comfort requirement threshold.
I will say we do have catheters too. So
yeah, thanks very much. I'll decline my catheter.
No.
Yeah.
No.
They have soft wicks now. You can use a soft wick, so you don't have to have a catheter. So.
Yeah, there you go.
UTIs. Joe would be happy with me saying that.
Next, I think there's just one more slide really on the timing. So as I had mentioned, our design team should have the design development documentation for us by Friday. I am working with Regency Construction to put together a cost estimate. We'd like to do a cost estimate at this time to see where we're at with the renovation, especially, based on the phasing that needs to be done. So the timeline for doing this work and then the cost where we're at. And then, based on that, we will finish up the construction documents by the end of the year. And then based on funding, that will determine our time frame for the actual construction and refresh of the work.
So I'll just add a couple of quick comments here, but you could see from the way the drawings were assembled that it's obviously it's done in parts. So each of these components that Eileen took you through, we know is going to take multiple stages. And so they can be done in pieces, and we got to figure out, there's probably a couple of different sequences we could take through. Part of it's going to be how we fund the project and the sequence of events. The other is that we've talked a lot about and spent a lot of time on is the sequence and size of each of these little pieces that we can do that advances the project while not interfering any more than necessary with the ongoing operations. So it's a complicated little project to do this. You can see too from the drawing by moving the behavioral health that we're creating basically some additional capacity overall within the unit, but all of that patient care area is still staying within the footprint of the critical care pavilion. So we haven't put anything outside of that. So as we get further down the road and begin to demolish buildings, all of that is in here stays in here and should be unaffected. Okay, let me just move into the look ahead here. So over the next quarter or two, by the time we meet again, these are what we're really focused on, is maintaining the good progress on the schedule and staying within budget. As I reported earlier, we've actually created a little bit more cushion due to some good equipment and furniture purchases and some other things we've been able to manage. So we're feeling comfortable. We've got room to maneuver should anything come up before we get all the way to the end of the project. So continuing focus on that. Ambulatory enabling projects, finishing up what we have that will sort of close out that particular definition of the work. The other, actually outpatient health center, take that one off. That's a duplication. Sorry about that. And then campus parking open space. We actually met with our traffic and parking consultant today. These are the folks who've done work here at Metro Health in the past and know us well. And so we're going to spend time over the next 3 months really working out the plan, how to transition parking from how we're using it now to how we will need to use our existing facilities once the new outpatient health center opens. So they're looking not only at that, but also efficient use of those and easy wayfinding, as well as how our circulation in front of each of the buildings is going to work to make sure we're as efficient and easy to use from a patient and visitor point of view. So that's underway as well. And then main campus legacy buildings, continuing with our relocation planning for the departments that will remain on campus, looking at how we can consolidate and use as little space that remains as possible and still achieve all our objectives, which would free up as many buildings as possible that we can then isolate for demolition. Part of that isolation is going to be unraveling the utilities and services that serve through some buildings that we want to demolish into others that we want to keep. And we've got engineers who are working on that or have done a start of that process already. So we'll be ramping that up in more detail as we get through the year. And that's the summary for campus transformation. Are there other questions? Any other questions on that? Okay, I don't see any. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Karen Detloff to go through the facilities update. If you could cue that slide, those slides, please.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Mm-hmm.
Do we have the facilities management? There we go. Need to give it one more minute.
There we go. Okay. Next slide, please. So this is an update on our capital projects year to date. We've got 103 projects that we've initiated, totaling over $4.1 million. Most of these projects are routine repair or replacement of aged or failed infrastructure components. And we've got two major strategic projects that are very near the end of completion. We're replacing 2 boilers in our existing powerhouse. They are both up and running at this point in time. And we've been replacing the line isolation monitor in the main hospital's operating rooms. And then we've got an ongoing project to upgrade our building automation system, and that will be continuing probably through the end of this year. That's been about a $3.5 million project that's been ongoing for over a year. And we have upgrades to the CCP generators, and that will carry into 26. So far, we have 96 of these projects are basically contingency or break fix type projects, the 2 strategic projects I've mentioned above, and we've initiated 5 projects for other departments. Next slide, please. So Jim has asked me to speak a little bit to some of the things we don't normally talk about in this meeting. And on the operations side, we do a pretty decent job of managing our utility budgets and our costs associated with utilities, which is a relatively significant portion of our budget. Utilities account for about $15 million a year in the operating budget for the system. So one of the things that we do is we price check replacements regularly, even if it's not required by Ohio Revised Code and things we need to do legally, just to make sure that we've got the best price going for things. And we try to replace everything with energy efficient devices, motors, pumps, timers, photo eyes. We use daylight harvesting in places where we can. Which is using the daylight instead of having to turn on lights in garages and other parts of the building. And then we routinely and for years have been meeting with our controls vendor. They effectively are an arm of our department to help make sure the buildings are working optimally. We use energy saving measures in our control systems, night setback. We rebalance the buildings to make sure they're balanced properly and efficiently. And we test the control systems regularly and do preventive maintenance on the system. In addition to that, the building automation system upgrade is going to provide us some of the latest and greatest technology to be energy efficient. The former head-end system that we're replacing is a 30-year-old vintage, so this is a very nice upgrade. The other thing that we do is we've been really good at managing our electric and natural gas rates. We work with a company and lock in our gas rates, our electric rates, and we've been able to lock in the same rate for 3 years now, and a little more than 5 cents a kilowatt hour, compared to what CEI has been charging, which is over 8 cents a kilowatt hour. And when you compare what we're going to be paying based on what CEI is going to be charging for this year, based on our consumption last year, we're going to save about 2.1 million. CEI's rates are. The other thing we do with electricity is we pay our state excise tax directly to the state. We're allowed to do this only at the main hospital because you need to be using more than 45 million kilowatt hours a year to be engaged in this program. And that saves us about $70,000 a year on average to do that. And then we lock in natural gas futures. Last year, we were able to secure an average rate of about 259 million cubic feet of natural gas. And this year this year it's a little higher, 3.13 cents per kilowatt hour, or sorry, MCF. Through June. Right now, Enbridge is charging $5.25 per MCF to commercial customers. Therefore, we saved about $1 million last year, and we're on track of saving about $800,000 over what Enbridge will be charging as a benchmark. And the other thing I'll mention, it hasn't been publicly announced yet, but we were able to, let me preface this. The Ohio Hospital Association has a group called the Ohio Society for Healthcare Facilities Management. And for several years now, they've been tracking utility usages at hospitals within the state of Ohio and running kind of a competition to see who's achieved the best savings. And this year, we were awarded the 2025 Energy Cup for large hospitals because we saved 14% over our utilities between 2023 and 2024. So that will be publicly announced shortly. Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Next slide, please. And then here are some of the things we can do in the legacy buildings that we've commissioned and moved people out of. We shut the water down wherever possible. We've set thermostats to 75 degrees in the summer and 65 degrees in the winter. You might wonder why we're not sending it warmer in the summer, but if we set it any warmer, we start getting condensation in some of the smoke detectors and they start going off. So we've got to be a little careful about what we do in the building. We also changed out all the clinically rated filters that were there when we had patient care to those more typical for home use, so that we're saving a lot, almost half on those filters. We inspect and repair any leaks in the pneumatic control system because we still have to spend energy to keep these buildings conditioned at this point in time. And one of the things we're doing lately is we found on occasion that people get into spaces that we don't want them in and start turning the lights on and they leave them on. So we're going around now and we're turning off all the normal power circuits so they can't do that going forward. We've initiated a steam trap survey throughout the system. Steam traps are devices that help the steam and condensate work efficiently in a distribution system. And we're establishing an internal energy committee among all our managers for our satellite facilities to cross-train all the managers to be as efficient as they can in running their buildings and share ideas back and forth between each other and make sure they're using all the tools that we have at our disposal as effectively and efficiently as they can. And to benchmark our buildings against one another and actually engage in kind of a friendly competition and hope they drive down the utilities even further. And also we talk about no cost and low cost initiatives that we can implement and better determine where we spend our energy dollars throughout the system so that we get the biggest bang for our buck. So that's my report. Any questions, please?
Any questions for Karen? Otherwise, again, thank you and congratulations on that. And do you do consults? Because I can have you come over here and I can cut some of my energy costs. I could use the help. But
okay, happy to help.
Hey, Dr. Walker. Dr.
Yes.
Walker, we do have a question for Karen.
Yes, Mike, go ahead.
If you were to build a hospital today, would you use steam like we use it now?
We wouldn't use it for heat, and in the new hospital we built here, it's all hot water heat. It's more efficient to use steam for humidification than electric means of humidification, so we'd keep the steam for that purpose. But for heating, you'd use hot water heating.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you all. Thank you for all your updates, particularly Mr. Bizek and Ms. Detloff and all the others. So those were very helpful. I'm going to now ask for a motion to move into executive session to discuss hospital trade secrets as defined by ORC 1333.61. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you. Both will now do a roll call. Mr. Arnold?
Hey.
That's a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Ron D?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Summers? It does a yes, Mike. And
Yes.
I will say yes.
Yes.
Did I leave any board members out? Okay. All right. Well, we'll now ask the public to step out. Tamika, you let me know when we're good.
We're back in public session.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. All right, thank you all for a very good discussion. Are there any additional comments before we vote on the recommendation? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion to approve the recommendation to expand use of previously approved funds to include capital expenditures for Belgrave, Ramelcamp Business Service, and other main campus buildings. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions? The resolution passed. I think, are there any other items for discussion? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I think